The colorless sea, untouched for years. We fear it, but no longer. Join us as we go into the gray. Everyone in the mini community has a pile of unpainted minis. No matter where you look, everyone has this, and I am no exception. So that's what Into the Gray is all about. I'm trying to get through my pile of unfinished miniatures. So I grabbed this guy that I had been wanting to paint for a while, and I just sat down, came up with an idea, and went to work. Originally, what I wanted to do for this spooky graveyard guy was put him in kind of like a snowy night scene with a kind of harsh moonlight. So I began with painting these shadows kind of this dark blue, hoping it would give a nice, rich, saturated undertone. I then grabbed some ghostly vapors, and this was used as kind of a cool moonlight from the top down, which gave a colored zenithal. It will become apparent shortly that this probably didn't end up helping because I pretty much screwed it up, but it looks nice right now. Moving on, I grabbed some wash and began to put it liberally across the entire cloak. I wanted it to pool up in a lot of these areas so that you could really see the texture come through. Oh no! I used the same wash on the ropes around his waist and also made sure to paint the underside of the cloaks as well. I wanted to darken the blues even more, and I felt that I had kind of gone very bright with the ghostly vapors. And so I'm going in with a blue wash across his entire skin. I think actually by the end of it, it looked really, really good. It might have kind of defeated the purpose of the zenithal a little bit in the first place, but I kind of think that the wash blends the highlights down into the shadows pretty well. Letting the wash do what it does best, just bringing out all of that beautiful detail. Grab some dollar store cinnamon brown and some blue from the shadows that we put in earlier on that colored zenithal. This is just gonna help the shadows match up even when we bring in other colors to the model. Our shadows and our highlights will always kind of go back to that darker blue and those ghostly vapors. I overbrushed that mix on to get the cloak to a more brown tone, and then highlight it up with a little more ghostly vapors just on the shoulders and head. These nails are very, very cool looking, but they are very annoying to deal with and to paint around. A couple of them also broke off, but I think that adds to the theme. I also don't want to model more or print more off, and so I'm just gonna leave it as is. This is where I feel like I kind of screwed up. I felt that that moonlight I had talked about kind of putting into the scene just wasn't there, and so I came back in with much more of that moonlight color over top, and it kind of covered up everything I did and just really washed it out, kind of pulled a lot of those nice brown tones out of it. That was a mistake, and that's okay. So after really liking the wash that I had done on the skin, I decided to then also try to do kind of a painterly highlight up. Why did I do this? Again, covering up a bunch of the work that I had done. I'm not sure. I think it was just something I wanted to try. And in the end, I don't know if the result was kind of what it should be. Whoa, we have a new camera. We're looking top down. Oh, there's our very, very nice high quality wet palette and my milkshake. Grab a couple colors, put them on the palette. Time to do this fine art stuff that you see all the professional YouTubers doing. I'm gonna try to thin down some paint and then just bring the highlights up and up, blending them together and creating natural looking highlights without the use of dry brushing. This was not easy. It took me a long time to get the hang of it, and even still, it was a little rough. This is kind of my first go at trying this technique. It's not something I had really done too much with previous paint jobs that I had done, but I think that I ended up getting the hang of it, finding out where to put the paint and where to not. That was what I found really difficult, was actually just not putting paint in areas. You need to keep those shadows and the stuff you've already done and not paint over top of it like a dry brush. But that's really what I'm trying to do, is learn and grow in this hobby, and I can't do that just by watching all the videos online. I actually have to try doing it myself. So I would encourage you, give a technique that you've been scared of a try. You might screw it up, and that's totally okay, but keep working at it. I don't suggest you put it up on the internet for everyone to see, but that's just me. We're gonna grab some pink, bring it down to kind of like a violety purple, and do the inside of his mouth, because if he's blue on the outside, he's gotta be purple on the inside. So I did the eye sockets this way as well. This was another mistake. You can see in this shot that it's just bad. It looks really bad. Definitely not the way to go. As you can see, I tried to wipe it away with my thumb. I immediately ignored that huge error and went on to the claws. Something I know how to do, something I actually hate doing. Claws are the worst. You have to paint them from all the different angles, usually very stark contrasts, and so your errors are much more visible, and I end up painting and repainting them quite a bit. Oh, this is another huge mistake I did. I splattered paint over the entire thing, bloody paint. I was trying to just splatter paint on the skull, and it immediately splattered. But we're just gonna roll with it, add some to his claws, and call it a day. Using a part of a sponge, I grabbed some browns and oranges to create a rust color, went brighter and brighter up, and dabbed it all along these nails surrounding him. And I like the idea that they've been in there for a really, really long time, and so the rust that they have is covering almost all of it, and even spreading, kind of dripping down to parts of his cloak. As you might have noticed, there is a hole in the back side of him. That's a drain hole for the printing that I did. Was wondering what to put there and thought, well, he's got a bunch of nails in there already. Why not a bigger nail? So I grabbed one from the garage, chopped it up, and it actually fit in there almost perfectly. I had to do very, very little to it to get it in there, get a secure fit. Just grabbed some of that E79000 and pushed it in there. We of course have to make it look like the rest of the nails around it, dulling down that shininess to a more rusted metal look. And by the time that's done, this guy's great. All we really need to do is grab a base for him. There's one. I did record the entire process of creating the base, but this video is already very long as is, and so I don't want to take up any extra time with that process. So we grabbed some more of that E69000 and put it on his feet, always checking the placement beforehand, settle him in there. And this is something I actually left in intentionally. I feel like a lot of, YouTube videos or whatever just show them placing it perfectly and then, whoa, we go to an epic shot. I don't know if it's just me, but I very rarely get things right on the first try, and so that's me struggling to kind of get him into the right spot. And then I realized I actually needed a little bit more glue on the backside of his foot, but he's not quite done yet. Back to the whole moon idea, I wanted to add a lot more shadow and a lot more contrast originally to this. It didn't end up painting that way, but I still wanted to kind of cheat it a little bit. This is a technique where you just put Nuln Oil through a airbrush. Putting washes through airbrushes have turned out really great for tinting certain things for me, and just kind of, in this case, bringing down the brightness of an area, almost like a burn effect on Photoshop. And I'm just kind of hitting this one side and the darker corners of his head. And now you can see the difference in the sides of the cloak, where that one side is a lot darker than this bright side. And it actually makes the skin that I painted more accurate. It actually looks right when you kind of spin him around and get those shadows on the side. I imagine him to be so slow that a bunch of snow has gathered on top of him. So I'm gonna put some on his shoulders and around, just thinning it out closer to the ends of the arms. I put a bunch on his noggin as well, and then added one little extra friend. Just to make it that much more spooky, a raven perched on top of his shoulder to bring the whole thing together. Here he is. He's not perfect. He's not going to win any awards or contests, but he's done. He's no longer gray. He's a finished project. I tried a lot of things for the first time on this print. Honestly, some of them failed. And, one or two worked, and that's okay. I don't think those errors draw too much from the overall effect of the mini. I think he looks creepy. I can feel that he's in a dark environment in this snowy landscape in a graveyard, and it works. I know that when I try these techniques again, I will have all of those mistakes to have learned from, and hopefully they'll look better the next time I try them. Who knows?